Hey, good afternoon, my friends. I'm here this afternoon with representatives from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. And what we're doing is we are flying and showing you the Boardman River Restoration Project. I'm here with the chairman of the implementation team for the restoration project, Mr. Frank Deturi, and also with the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians Natural Resource Department head, Desmond Berry. And what I'm going to do is turn it across to these guys to explain what you're looking at. We apologise now if there's any glitches in the feed. We will get that sometimes with the application we're using. So, Frank, if I turn this over to you, can you explain what people are looking at right here now as opposed to what they would have been looking at? And what is the Boardman River and what is this restoration project?
Sure. What we're looking at here is the eastern end of what used to be the Brown Bridge Dam impoundment. So everything you see that is not that is within the tree line was impounded with up to 30 feet of water until 2012. Brown Bridge Dam, which you could see at the top left of your screen, at about 2.5 miles from where we're sitting, was removed in 2012 to restore the river into its natural path and create those natural flow regimes instead of having a segmented river system. We have a free-flowing water.
So as we look down to the right, there's a small, what looks like a small kind of pond area there. Is what you're saying, this whole area that we're looking at between the trees used to be a big pond that was just full of water?
Correct, and at the very north end of it, northwest end of it, was a powerhouse and a dam. You can actually see that dam berm out up to the north. This was built in 1921 and was used until about 1998 to produce hydroelectric power for the growing needs of Traverse City area.
Well, looking at this, if this was a huge open body of water, how on earth were you able to decide where the river went? Did you just guess to see where the path of the river was, or how did you know that this is actually the original path of what should be called the Ottaway River before it was colonized and called the Boardman River?
The stretch of river that we're looking at here, 2.8 miles, nearly 3 miles. The lower northern western part of it, the first 2 miles, that river was still flowing underneath the impoundment. The part of the river that we're actually flying over right now was in a different location. So the way we found that location was through the help of a company called Interfluve and their technique, which has been nicknamed DOR, or depth of refusal. So basically what the team did was transect the valley from valley wall to valley wall with what looked like a chimney sweep rod. It was pushed down through the soils, and the idea was to find the lowest elevation in the valley that actually had gravel or rock at the bottom of it, and that leads you to believe that the river was last occupied that position. So basically back and forth through here with a whole bunch of cross sections, and then after you draw those cross sections out, you have an idea where the river flowed, and then get in the field with excavators, excavate out that original channel, and then put the water back in it.
Wow, that's really incredible. Now, as we're looking down here, I don't know if we can go a little bit closer. We can see there's looks like there's some debris in the river to the layman's eye, but that isn't debris there, is it, Frank?
No, any wood that you see along a riverbank is certainly natural. What we're seeing here that maybe isn't quite so natural is the fact that all the trees were cut 150 years ago, somewhere in the 1840s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and in this area, all those trees were cut and rolled into the river and floated down towards Traverse City before there were any dams on the river. So, and they were floated down to a mill in downtown Traverse City and produced into logs that were shipped throughout the Midwest for construction purposes. So there was a large lumber mill. But so what we're missing in this photo are the trees that would have stood along the bank. And if as you start to look, you can see evidence of those old trees by the stumps that form both sides of the river. And that's one of the indicators that we used to understand where the river was. So after finding what we thought was the actual river bottom, then excavating that new channel, the evidence of that new channel was stumps along both sides of the river with a gravel bottom. So what you're seeing, some folks call debris or large wood in the stream, those are the key pieces of habitat for the river. They actually create those currents that produce scour and deeper holes in the river, and they also provide habitat for juvenile fish and large adult fish.
Awesome. So one of the things that to me is really interesting, you said this project was done in 2012. So we're looking at, 5 years ago this was started, is that right?
It was finished sometime in late spring of 2013. So
okay.
Yeah.
So 4 or 5 years ago. So the fact that this is completely greened over, and what you can't see is the fact that some of these trees here, the poplar trees on the sides that were that actually have started to grow back here, are already about 12 feet high.
Sure. So the ones that actually came back on their own, but there are also 18,000 trees that were planted here with coordination between the Conservation District and the Grand Traverse Band. If you back up a little bit, you can actually see. So it's going to be 30 or 40 years before a tree grows tall enough to fall in this river. So there's another project that was in conjunction with the dam removal called the Large Wood Project, and that was paid for through grant funds from the Natural Resource Conservation Service and the Grand Traverse Band. And the idea was to place large wood structures in the stream that perform those habitat functions that a fallen tree would have. And you could see a little earlier, we passed a couple of places where you could see the silt fence that was installed as part of this temporary silt fence that was installed as part of this project. You can see some silt fence right there. And
so kind of just off to the left of centre here, you can. This has been part of the construction to put that habitat back together, where we're looking at that black fence that's there.
That silt fence will come out as soon as the vegetation is established, but all the wood that's in the stream right adjacent to that silt fence is wood that was placed there as part of this large wood installation project. Those were engineered log jams, so you can see some up at the top part of the screen, in the bottom left of the screen, over in the lower left again. You can see all that wood that's sticking out into the stream. What that does, again, it drives the water down towards the bottom of the stream. It creates. There's a hyporeic zone between groundwater and flowing water, and it creates that exchange in the hyporeic zone, which is very beneficial to all the aquatic organisms that live in this system. The removal of the dam caused the river's temperature in this section of stream to drop 7 to 8 degrees. The colder stream has the capability to actually hold more oxygen. Cold, highly oxygenated water is habitat that is conducive to aquatic organisms and the wonderful trout and fish that we have that live in the system.
Awesome. So I know one thing we're going to do as well is we're going to go and sit down with a couple of the scientists from the Grand Traverse Band that have been involved in this project, and they were going to give us a kind of an overview of the ecology of a river so people can understand
Maximum flight altitude reached.
So people can understand that more. I see people talking about like man's destruction. Yeah, this whole area was logged. And the gentleman that was very involved with that was Captain Boardman, which was why this river is now known as the Boardman River. It was colonized from the Ottaway and is now being called the Boardman River. So hopefully in the future this river will get its original name back as well. So one of the things that I'd like to say is this is only phase 1 of a 4-part project, and we're going to also later on this week show you phase 2 which is a really historic phase because the Grand Traverse Band and the Army Corps of Engineers are working in partnership, and hopefully later this week or early next week we'll be able to show the river actually moving back to its original flow path, where there's another impoundment that's being siphoned off in a very, very interesting project.
So the entire project is the removal of the 3 upper dams and the modification of the lowermost barrier. So 4 dams, 1 river. It's the largest dam removal project in the state of Michigan's history. Actually, Phase 2 has been undertaken by the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Phase 3, which is the Sabin Dam removal, is the partnership. Project partner agreement is currently being written between the Grand Traverse Band and the U.S. Army Corps. So,
how many years is this going to take overall, Frank?
well, the actual construction started August 16th of 2012 at Brown Bridge. Phase 2, Boardman, began early this spring. That will be concluded by the end of this year, 2017. 2018 will be the removal of Sabin Dam from early spring until late fall. It's 2008, so that would be complete and removed by the end of 2018. Union Street Dam modification is scheduled for, design will be complete in 2018, and project schedule should be somewhere in 2019 and 20, depending on funding. So the actual project should be complete by 2020, but Union Street has far-reaching implications, up to 5 to 10 years for that project.
Awesome, and what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll do some more live streams. So guys, be looking out for more live streams on this, and unfortunately we've ended the flight time with the drone right now, but we will be doing some interviews with some different people involved with the implementation team and doing some more drone footage. And also on Monday night, be watching out because there is a grand showcase of a documentary that the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians have made all about the Ottawa River. So, Ottaway. I knew I was going to do that. Have a good evening, guys.